Hi everyone, and welcome to our second video to do with our challenge aspect of our teaching and learning, and we're going to be having a look at this concept of scaling up today. So the key question we really need to ask ourselves then is my lesson challenging enough? And this is something that we really should be asking ourselves about every lesson that we teach. And the reason this is so important is that if we're not giving a challenging lesson to the students in front of us, then they're never really going to excel in our subject. Because if we set this very low bar to begin with, even if they meet it, it's still going to be below what they could potentially achieve. So why do we need to really consider this? Well, it comes back to a bit of psychology, so social sciences department, hopefully I'll get this all right, called the anchor effect. Now, the anchor effect is all about the fact that our entire perception of something is going to be influenced by that first piece of information that we receive on that topic. So I've given you a wonderful example. This was something I found a couple of Christmases ago now, I think it was, on good old Argos. And you can see that I was having a look for a lovely iPad cover. And if we have a little look to see what they've done, in that top corner, we can see the price. Now, obviously, you have a little glance, you're like, less than half price, amazing. This first bit of information I've got tells me this is a good deal. Obviously, if you look a little bit more closely, you can see that this is complete tripe, because I don't think at any point in our lives that iPad cover was selling for £1,000 as they're claiming. But it gives you an idea. Some people, maybe not as extreme as this, would be looking at this and thinking, well, hold on, this was £1,000 and now I can get it for £26.25, bargain. And okay, that's an extreme one. But I do this whenever I'm selling stuff online, then I basically think, what do I want to get for this item? I'm not going to list it for that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to list it a bit higher. Now, why do I do that? Because if I list it a bit higher, that means that my expectation has been raised. What's actually probably going to happen is the usual land of people buying stuff online. They're going to look at that and think, you want 60 quid for that? I'm going to offer you 50. Little do they know that when I sit there and go, I can't take 50, but I'll take 55, they feel like they've got a great deal, because the original price they saw, that anchor point, was £60. They think they've just saved a fiver. The reality is I went in there knowing I didn't really want £60 for this. I actually wanted 55, and you've fallen straight into my trap of meeting my expectation, because I set that initial bar a little bit above what I actually wanted to get. Now, this isn't all just about selling techniques on the internet, you'll be pleased to know. This is actually coming down to what we can do in the classroom. So how this works in our classrooms is that if we want to actually get our students to excel in our subjects, we basically need to expose them to the content at a level just above the expectation for that point of their school careers. So we're anchoring our lesson in that challenge. The reason we do this is that if we set that anchor too low, then they're basically going to think, well, if my teacher wants me to get to that point and I only get just beneath it, it's good enough. But if we started with a low bar, they're then going to fall just beneath that low bar as well, and therefore significantly underachieve. If we set that anchor point high, even if they fall just beneath, we're still going to get the result that we really intend them to get from this lesson. So what does this look like? Well, basically we need to pitch our lessons a slight amount above the level that we actually want them to achieve. So this is a great example that I've had in my past teaching. So when I used to teach Key Stage 3, back in the dark days of my career, then I used to have to teach Year 8, and there was all this stuff about atoms. And literally the stuff we used to have to teach Year 8 is everything's made of atoms and they're these little spheres. That was it. It's terrible. But at GCSE, we then want them to know the structure of an atom with the protons, the electrons and the neutrons, with our lovely little diagram on the right there. Now, when I was teaching my little group back in the day, I thought, why on earth am I dumbing this down to that level at Key Stage 3? Why don't I start to introduce this GCSE concept to them? So that lesson I went in, I said, right, we're going to do about the structure of the atom today, but I think you guys are more than capable of getting this to the GCSE standard today. Even though you're in year 8, I think you are going to get this today. You are that good. And so I taught them the lesson with the whole structure of the atom, the protons, the electrons, the neutrons. We did the numbers of them, etc. And they got it. And that was when they were in year 8. Now, I continued that same vein throughout their time because that was the group I was really lucky enough to teach from the point of year 8 right the way through to when they left in year 11. And you know what? Because we kept doing this, we kept anchoring in challenge every lesson, just taking that little bit above each time, those kids got absolutely spectacular results. That's a class where they were coming out with the perfect UMS scores on their actual module exams. So this just shows how you can really raise that bar and therefore raise your outcomes through having that high expectation, that high anchor point to start. Don't forget though, it's not just a case of, right, okay, I'm going to teach all of my year 7 classes GCSE content now and expect them to get it like that, because they won't, okay? It's challenging. That is exactly what we are doing. We are challenging them. They're not going to grasp it the first time that we deliver it. We've got to break it down into those manageable steps to give them that ability to succeed. If we just set this challenging start point and then don't help them with those little baby steps to get there, they're just going to switch off. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to say, I can't do this, it's too hard, and they're not even going to try anymore. So yes, anchor it in challenge. Think about pitching it just that little bit above, but then support them to make those gains. If they can make those little wins, each little step they make moves them further along that journey and leads to better outcomes.